Congressman Ford, you've been criticized by some voters for helping pass the bankruptcy bill, a measure that made it more difficult for many Americans to clear debt by filing for bankruptcy. How did this vote help your district when Memphis has one of the highest bankruptcy rates in the nation?
It's a great question. Nobody wants to be in bankruptcy that I've ever met. And this bill urged a couple of things. One, personal responsibility, which I don't believe anyone's above the law or anyone above being responsible. No one's above being responsible for themselves. What I'd like to do, Ms. Abdul, is a couple things. I think we ought to implement financial literacy classes in elementary and middle schools in this great country of ours. I was blessed that our great governor, Phil Bredesen, Mayor Corker worked for our predecessor, Don Sundquist, but our current governor, Phil Bredesen, allowed me to work with the Commissioner of Economic Development there and our Finance Commissioner to bring financial literacy to 3 schools, including my alma mater, Doubletree Elementary. We're teaching third graders the value of saving a little money. America has, I'll put it this way, China has a 45% savings rate. Europe has an average 22%, and America has a negative 2%. We've got to change that. That bankruptcy bill, along with a number of other things, will help us do that.
Mayor Corker, would you care to respond?
I'm very concerned about the number of bankruptcies that take place, and I'm concerned about the savings into the future also. One of the biggest things that is driving that is the escalating cost of health care. As I travel around the state and sit people's living rooms, that is the one thing that continues to drain them so much financially. And we as a country have got to use every available energy to try to figure out a way to make sure that health care is more affordable and accessible. The other thing that concerns me is I travel around the plants, and especially in some of the rural areas where the only opportunity happens to be at certain employer bases, I see people that are not saving. I see people that are not putting money aside in their 401ks. And where we used to have a lot in this country of defined benefit plans, today it's more of a defined contribution plan or a contribution plan voluntarily. And I'm very concerned about that. And I believe that if we don't address it and we don't make people aware of that, we're going to have a crisis in this country in the next 20 years.
All right, Congressman Ford.
You know, Mayor, you said something earlier about where I was on the veterans and the troops. I tried to get President Bush to pass a law to grant tax cuts to families that are serving overseas so the employer can pay a troop and his family so they won't go hungry. I did the same when it came to this savings piece. You talk about these different contributions and these different pension plans. It's your party, sir, that's been in Washington the last 6 years that hadn't fixed it. It's your party that allowed a lot of this to happen. One of the things I'm most proud of, Ms. Abdullah, is I had a chance to work on the Sarbanes-Oxley bill, which said to cheaters in the corporate world, if you cheat, you will be held accountable.
Ding, 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 ding. That's the end of round 3. We're going to move on to round 4 now, and Norm Brewer starts us off.
It's not a fight, Ransom.
Well, they call it a round, you know.
You haven't been watching television lately.
I'm glad somebody is, though. We're glad you're seeing it all.
Mr. Mayor, you mentioned health care costs a moment ago, and we all know that is a problem. But if you had a magic wand, what measures would you use to control health care costs in this country?
Well, a number of things. Number one, certainly using technology on the administrative side. It's amazing to me that today we don't promote national platforms for physicians and others to actually file claims and lower administrative costs. Making health care deductible for every citizen. So many people don't have health care coverage through their employers, and yet they don't have the same tax benefits that companies have to provide that. Doing everything we can to make sure that Americans don't pay double what Canadians do for prescription drugs. Making sure we use health savings accounts and encourage employers to actually fund those. Make sure we have tort reform, something my opponent has voted against time and time again, that would actually cause providers in the healthcare industry to not practice so much defensive medicine, which really causes so many useless tests to happen. So those are the things I would do. And let me just say this. I think it's one of those big issues that needs someone who's had the ability to solve problems. My opponent has been in Washington
for 10 years. I got to jump in now. Sorry, Mayor.
We do 4 things real quick, Mr. Brewer. Number 1, we let Medicare negotiate directly with the drug companies. I hate to tell you this, Mayor Corker, but it was Senator Frist, Senator Alexander, and President Bush who didn't allow us to do this in the first bill, so I voted against it. Number 2, we'd let small businesses come together, band together. If I have 10 employees, you have 20, Ms. Abdullah has 40, we should be able to come together and buy health insurance at a cheaper rate. 3, we'd introduce more technology into it. The same way you have a bank card that allows you to take money out, lets you know how much you have in it, we'd have the same card for people when they go to the doctor. That way you don't have to go through unnecessary tests and run up the cost. And fourth, I have voted for a tort bill. The problem is the tort bill that keeps passing the Congress, unfortunately, never passes the Senate, and there are majority Republicans there. The reason it doesn't pass is because a group of Republican senators, led by our former Senator Fred Thompson, refused to vote for it. If we carved out an exemption for physicians and raised the cap, we could pass tort reform tomorrow when it comes to rising costs in health care today. And I would vote for it.
Mayor Corker, you get 30 seconds.
You know, I've been right here in the state solving complex problems all my life. I haven't been in Washington, and you keep referring to other people. I've had no votes on this. You're the only person that has been there. You've been there for 10 years. I do support association health plans and have all my life. My opponent has voted four times against association health plans and just came around when he decided to run for the United States
That's
Senate.
not true, Mr. Corker.
Okay, Otis Sanford, you're next.
Thank you. Congressman, as you probably know, we currently have record high budget and trade deficits, and right now we have an $8.5 trillion national debt. Can you honestly say that if you're elected to the Senate that you could find a way to cut taxes? And conversely, isn't it pretty obvious that whoever is elected is probably going to have to raise taxes, especially on the wealthiest individuals?
Tell you what I think we should do. Number one, I'm the only person on the stage who's ever cut a tax, who's ever voted for a tax cut. I voted for more than $2 trillion worth of it since being in the Congress. And I would just add to my friend, Mr. Corker, I'm the only person on this stage that's never ever voted for a budget that was not balanced. I voted against Clinton budgets when they were not balanced, and I voted against Bush budgets when they were not balanced. Here's what we do. Number one, we go to a 2-year budget cycle. Your former opponent and my colleague, Ed Bryant, was dead on. We had to have a 2-year cycle. Fred Thompson led it in the Senate, and Ed Bryant and I worked in the House, but they didn't let us bring it up for a vote, Mr. Corker, so we couldn't vote. 2, we let Medicare negotiate directly with the drug companies, $828 billion. 3, if it's good enough for the private sector, it should be for the public sector. No more no-bid contracts. Number 4, no more pork barrel spending. If pork were its own agency, we would have spent, it'd be the 5th largest agency in government. We ought to end it. I got a bill with a Republican from Arizona called Stand By Your Pork. It says if you want a piece of pork, you got to go to the Congress, go to the floor, and explain to the American people what it is and let them vote up or down. That'd be my start.
Mayor Corker.
Absolutely need to send people to Washington that want to solve the budget issues we have by constraining costs. That's something I've done as Commissioner of Finance. I came in the middle 90s with a $250 million mid-year budget gap, and through constraining costs, our state was made stronger. That's the same mentality I will take to Washington. Obviously, having earmarks passed in the dark of night is totally inappropriate. I agree with a 2-year budget cycle. Ed Bryant and I agree on that issue, absolutely. And I do think that you have to send people to Washington that truly want to balance a budget that way. My opponent, again, I hate to say it, has voted for over $280 billion of add-ons to the budgets that have been passed. And actually, if he'd had his way, we'd have an even bigger deficit than we have today.
It's not true, Mr. Corker. You said a lot of things about me, sir, and I got a lot of joy in my heart, but I can't let you come to Memphis. I've never, ever voted for a final budget, sir, that was not balanced. I know your staff may tell you that, but it's simply not true. Let me finish what I would do. I'd also pass a balanced budget amendment. I have voted for it. I'm the co-sponsor in the Congress, but it is yet to come up for a vote. We can't find enough to do it. And finally, I just believe that we ought to ask the 16 agencies in government who can't audit themselves. If you don't audit yourself, we'll stop the money from flowing, and they'd figure it
All
out.
right.
That's a
Thank you,
good private sector principle, Mr. Corker, that the Republicans have
Halima
not followed in
Abdullah is
Washington.
with the Commercial Appeal. Halima, please, with the next question for Mr. Ford. Excuse me, Corker.